to talk about annuities. All right? Annuities simply is a series of equal payments or equal deposits at a certain interval in time. So in a sense, you could use this as, you could set up an annuity payment plan for consistent payments. So like your rent. All right, you could set up this where you would have like a pot of money, and every single month they would automatically deduct it for your rent. But at the same time, throughout that process, you're still making interest on the money that you have in. So if you had some way of then replenishing that account, even though that you paid rent and it went down a little bit, maybe in a couple of days, then you put money back into it, well, it would gradually or automatically keep accruing interest. It would just be at different levels. So, yeah, I paid it, so it went down a little bit, so my interest now is only, let's say, $2. I put money back in for the next month, or maybe gradually every single week. And then it goes up. So it went from $2 to $2.10 to $2.20 to whatever it is. So that's kind of what we're talking about. The annuity due is the payments made at the beginning of the period. So that's just kind of what you would start out with. And then the annuity, ordinary annuity is just the payments made at the end. So you can either do it as a due. So it's a payments made at the beginning is you putting money into it so you know that you have enough at the end. Ordinary annuities would be payments made at the end of the period, meaning like if you use it for your rent payment. So there's two different kinds. There's a future one and there's a present one. So if you notice on 116 and 117, there's two different ones. The green one is the future. So this would be like if you're, you guys could have started a future annuity at the beginning of your high school career. And you could have put money away, and then you would use it to go to college or use it to start your life when you graduated. So you would have a goal in mind, how much money you wanted for college or how much you wanted for money to start your life. And then by that goal, you would set your annuity payment plan where you would keep putting money in there so you reach that goal. Okay? The present one would be, okay, I'm going to have this amount of money and then I'm going to do that rent payment cycle. And I would keep figuring it out. So, future, amount of money in account after a series of payments, including the interest. So the future one, again, is you just building it up. And you can use the table, and we'll go through the table in just a second. Present value annuities is having money in account to make payments, but still making interest. So the book says, present value is the opposite of future value, obviously. In future value problems, you are depositing money into it and allowing it to earn interest over time. So in a sense, this is just kind of another way of saying that you're having a savings account. In a present value, you want to make regular payments out of that account. However, you continue to make interest in it all the time. Right? So you would use this as, if you had this set up, you would split your direct deposit into this annuity account, so you never had to worry about rent. If you didn't have to worry about rent, the payment would still occur every single month, but you just really wouldn't know about it. Meaning, they would take it out on their own, okay? So, but you would still replenish it by your direct deposit. And some of your money would go into this account, some of your money would go into this present account, okay? The tables are exactly like what we did for the compound interest ones. So in the compound interest tables, remember, you needed to figure out how many periods it was. And that was because if it's compounded, or if it's monthly, or if it's whatever, you take that times the number of years to figure out the number of periods. And then you always had to make sure that you found out your percentage. Remember, in most cases, the percent that they give you was an annual percent, and you have to take that annual percent and then divide it by whatever the periods were again. So if it said quarterly, I would have taken that percentage and divided it by 4. If they say it's monthly, I take that percentage and divide it by 12. And then that would be the percent that corresponds to the percents across the top of each of your charts. Okay? So the most complicated part of this whole thing is whether you use the green one, which is future, or the blue one on the other page, which is the present. And I think I help you out in the quiz to kind of tell you which one to use. Okay? So, because otherwise it is kind of confusing. Okay?
That's kind of my question. I'm just confused what the difference is.
So again, this future one is you wanted to go to college, or want to go to college, but mom and dad planned that when you started high school. So they started throwing money into an account. So they figured you need however much money for college. So if they wanted to try to get a pot of money, in a sense, for that, as a freshman, every single month, they would have put in $100 into this account. And every single month, till you were graduated, it would have done that. And each time that you did that, then your interest started to keep growing. So it started really low because you only had $100. But by the time you were a senior now, 12 times 100 times 4, that's how much you would have had in it. And then your interest keeps on going up a little bit always, because your total keeps on going. That's your future one. The present one, you would put money in there, and you would use that money over and over again every single month to pay rent, or to pay your cell phone bill, or something.
So this one's kind of like your account that you would use?
Yeah,
And this
yeah.
one you do like for saving or something?
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking. So you would always replenish this one still, because you would always want money in there, because you'd have to cover whatever your bill is, but you'd have the month to recover that. So when you paid your bill at the end of the month or the beginning, however you want to think about it, your account would obviously go down. So my amount of interest I would make right there wouldn't be that much. But then the next week, you either put that full amount in or put a portion of that in, and I start making interest on that amount. And then the next week, and then the next week, and I have enough by the end of the month to pay that bill again the following. But I make interest along the way. And it keeps growing, because when you put more money into it, then you make more interest along the way. Make sense? Okay. So let's try one of these. Page 117, way at the top. Janet Powers saves $75 per month and deposits the money in an account, earning 3% annual interest compounded monthly. How much will be in the account after 2 years? How much of that money is interest? So when they say how much money is in there after a number of years, this usually means that I'm going to use the future one, right? Because I want to see in the future how much I'm going to have in there. That makes sense? So, remember
When they say
now.
what? What did you say when they say what? They wanted what?
See how it says, how much will there be in or after 2 years? So that tells me we're planning for the future. Okay? So, the first thing is, you got to look at your percent again, which was what? 3%?
Yeah.
And it was compounded how?
Monthly.
Monthly. So, what do I do with 3? Divide by 12, right? Monthly is 12. If it would have said quarterly, we would use 4. Semi-annually, we would use 2. Okay? So, this is what? 0.25%. On your futures one now, look across the top, and that should be one of the columns, right? Okay, now, How many years did it say? 2. And so if we're 2 years, but we're doing it monthly, we need to multiply by 12, right? So how many periods do I have? 24. So again, this is the number of periods. And again, I know the number of total periods because this amount tells me that. This is the number of years.
So this, we just set this up just like we did with like the compounding.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And then this is how it is compounded. So, go across the top and go across or down the side, and we should come up with a multiplier or a decimal again. And that decimal is what?
24.70282.
I think that's what it said.
70.
70? Okay, so now, this is just my multiplier. This is from the table. Okay, now take this times what was in the problem? $75. So take this times whatever we are going to put in there, and how much do I get? Somebody say it louder.
1,852.
Okay, so this is what should be in my account. Now, what's the question asked?
How much interest?
How much of it is interest? Well, how do I know how much I put in? Somebody take 75 times 24. Now, why am I doing this? Because this is the amount of money that I put in there, right? It says that I put $75 per month in there. Okay? So this is what? 0, 2, 30, 0, 0, 1, 14, 5, 0, 0, 8, 1. $1,800? So, this is what I put in. This is what they told me, or the multiplier told me that I have in my account now. So what's the amount of interest?
Cents.
Yeah?
Would you do like 2,524? You times them or something?
These I took to the chart that you don't have your book open to. And so then I would take that to the chart and I would use it with my number. Make sense?
And
All right.
dollars.
And dollars. Try B.
That's-
Read B out loud. Somebody.
Liberty Hodges saves $150 per quarter and deposits the money in an account earning 6% interest compounded quarterly. Do you want me to keep going?
6% quarterly. And what was the amount? Sorry.
150.
Thank you. Proceed.
What is the future value of the annuity after 5 years? How much of that money is interest?
5 years.
All right, so what do I do?
6
Divided by 4.
Divided by 4, right? Why 4?
Because it's quarterly.
Because it's quarterly. Okay? So again, I take whatever they tell me compounded wise and put it. So 6 divided by 4? 150? So 1.5%? Is that across the top somewhere? Okay? Again, if you don't see that percent across the top, you've done something wrong, right? Okay? How many periods do I have?
You have 4 times 5.
4 times 5, right? Again, this tells me 4, and there's 5 years, right? So 5 years times 4 quarters is 20. So take your 20 years, or 20, sorry, this isn't 20 years, this is 20 periods. So 20 periods across the left-hand side, 1.5% across the top, gives me a multiplier of,
23.1236.7.
thank you very much, times $150, because that's what I'm going to put in all the time. So I get what?
3,468.5505.
So let's say 5.6, right? But the question again says what? How much interest is that? So how do I find that? 5 years times, or 20 times 150, right? 0, 0, 0, 1, 3,000. So my interest is
$468.
That's kind of fun.
$468. So again, so this is where you would say, okay, I want to have at least $3,000 in there. I'm not even counting on the interest. I just want to have $3,000. So that's where your banker would tell you, well, let's put $150 in there. And then basically you just get this as a bonus at the end. So you got your $3,000 for a new stereo. I don't know. And then you got $468 to buy music. I don't know. Okay? So, again, this is for the future. Now, the present one works the exact same way. It's just the present one's used as a bill payer or something so you consistently can use it to pay bills. But the process is exactly the same. All right, so turn the page. We'll try one more. Huh? Yeah, still over there. Letter C says, what amount must you invest today at 6% compounded annually so that you can withdraw $5,000 at the end of each year for the next 5 years? So again, when they tell you that you have a consistency, okay, when you're going to take something out, they said withdrawal in this case. If they say you're going to pay some bill monthly or yearly or whatever, that tells you to use the present one. If you're building for the future, obviously I use the future table. Okay? So, same process though. So what would we do on this one?
6 divided by 1.
Yeah, so in this case, because it says compounded annually, I can just use the percent. So how many periods do I have? 5. Again, if it's annually, the periods and the years are the same number. So go back to your present table. Is there 5 periods with 6%? Yeah, so we'd use what?
4.21236.
Now I'm going to multiply that by 5 grand, wasn't it?
Yes.
Right? 0, 0, 0, 0, 8, 11, 6, 10, 21, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 21,061? Am I wrong? So does that make sense? So what this means is this. Basically, I need $21,061 in order to take out $5,000 per year in my present account. Okay? That's a lot.
So how do we,
Oh, and then it said what? Still the interest problem?
how much will you withdraw in interest?
Okay, so we have 5,000 times 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So that's an easy one, 25,000. So then we'd have to come up here and we would subtract those two. Right, so roughly $3,930,
Is your
roughly.
interest?
Yeah, something on there. So what does it say now? Read it again.
How much will you withdraw in interest?
Will you draw an interest?
Withdraw.
Withdraw an interest. So this part right here, this is extra money that we gained throughout that 5 years, but we're still withdrawing to use to pay our bills. So in a sense, you could say, yeah, I'm putting in $5,000 a year, but essentially I'm using the bank's $3,900 here, along with my.
Numbers part of the 21,000?
Right, and that's part of this 21,000. Because I'm always building it. So even though every year in this case, I'm taking $5,000 out, the rest of that money's still building interest. Now, it might not be as much interest as the last one because I took $5,000 away from it.
So they're saying they started with 21,000 and then they just take away 5,000 every month?
In a sense, yes. And so then, this is what I would need in that account right now for me to be able to do that. to spend $5,000 a year on whatever they were doing there. So if you didn't, then you would have to kind of do a combination of the two to build it up to that, right? But essentially what they're saying, if you had $21,000 in there to make your $25,000, $3,930 of it was the bank's money, in a sense. So I didn't really have to put that much to get the full $25,000.
So $5,000 for the rest of their lives?
I think they said for 5 years. So I don't know what they said they were buying or whatever. But again, maybe this could have been one of those about college. If you put $5,000 away a year. Right? I don't know how many of us could have probably done that, especially ourselves, right? We would have had to have some way of mom and dad or grandpa and grandma or somebody giving us some money, hardcore, right? Hardcore. Okay? So if you want to look at the last one, basically the same thing. So this one says, oh, she wants to travel. Okay? She wants $2,000 at the end of each month to pay for the following month's expenses. So she's planning on spending $2,000 a month. How much will she need to have in an account that pays 3% interest compounded monthly? So again, this one we would take 3 and do what with it? Divide by 12. And how many periods would I have? Looks to me, for this one, we would only have 12, right? 12 periods because it's only 1 year. So 3 divided by 12 again, you should have 0.25%. And then 12 in your bluish green one. So we would use, what, 11.8, looks like? So 11.8 times 2,000. What do we get, roughly? They said you need $23,614. So basically, if you were taking a year off and you planned on having $2,000 worth of expenses every month, you would need $21,000 in an account. Not too bad, right? Yeah. So again, like I said, it does get a little confusing. So if you look at the assignment here going forward, everybody turn to page 118 if you're not there already. Obviously, the first few problems, it shows future value, right? So I'm going to use that future table. The green one on the next page says present value. The other ones don't really tell you. So write this down, please. 21 through 24. You're going to use the future one. The next section, you're going to use the present one. And then 28 and 29, or 28 is the future. I don't know which ones you actually have to do, but 28 is future. Yeah? That should help you with which table to use, right? But do you understand the process? Okay? So a lot like the compound, just make sure that you use the period or the compounded number to divide your percent, and then use that times the number of years to find the number of periods to use in your table. Okay? So you got about 15 minutes. Oh, quiz tomorrow. We'll look at this. Should be in the last 3 sections, maybe? I'll look for sure. Holy cow, this thing's supposed to be just thick. We can cut it apart. Business math. And this way, then we'll get everything done before Friday. So then Monday we'll come back and have a review, and then Tuesday will be the test. Good. Yes.
We gotta use future.
So you gotta go back to the reconciliation section. What was that? 3.5 maybe? No, 3.4. Yeah, 3.4, 3.5, and 3.6. So you have the CDs, the reconciliations, and then the, what we just got done talking about today. We're ready? What? Quiz tomorrow.
Or what section?
3, 4, 3, 5, and 3, 6. So 4, 5, and 6.
Okay.
Okay. Wonderful.
Are you gonna stop your little video?
Oh. Unless you want to say something to everybody.
Hello.
Hi,
Does
Jeff.
anyone ever watch those?